What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. The road to predict all 136 FBS level college football teams continues when we stop in Boca Raton, Florida, where the FAU Owls are up next out of the American for 2025 predictions. And we're talking about a program with a ton of overhaul and needing to reset this program this year. My name is Nate Pope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate. Thank you all so much for clicking on the video and most importantly, for helping to support the channel. You want to support the channel even further? Biggest way you can do that, go down below, hit that subscribe button, and you can also ring the bell. Turning on notifications will ensure you don't miss a thing during the regular season and for the rest of prediction time. I am a sports media graduate delving into the professional world of the industry, so if you all want to see the cool stuff I get up to while still being up to date on what goes on this very YouTube channel, then please give me a follow at TailgateNate29, Twitter, Instagram, and feel free to even email me at TailgateNate29@gmail.com. Thank you all so much for supporting and interacting with me and the channel in whatever way you may be doing so. Now, with all that said and done and out of the way, let's talk about the FAU Owls and their new head coach, Zach Kitley, a very noted offensive coordinator. He coached Western Kentucky when they were running the high-flying air raid offense, turned Texas Tech into one of the best offenses in the country over the past couple of seasons, and now gets his first head coaching job, and I believe is going to be the youngest head coach in the country in Boca Raton. This is an FAU team that, apologies, had to sneeze, didn't want to do that loud into the microphone and on camera. This is a program that massively underachieved under Tom Herman. They went 4-8 and then they went 3-9. This is a program needing a reset. And look, quite frankly, this used to be a pretty darn good program. Again, remember they had Lane Kiffin for a year in 2019. They went 11, or I should say Lane Kiffin for many years, right? 11-3, then 5-7. Part of the 11-3 year in 2019. While the program has never seen much consistent success, they have seen some pretty good seasons. Willie Taggart, that era was not that great. Tom Herman, massively underachieving. Zach Kitley, one of the brightest young minds in college football, gonna hope to get his head coaching career out to a strong start. How do we do preview predictions on the channel? Well, we go through a roster overview. Offense over here to the left, defense over here to the right. And at the end of the video, we go through the Owl football schedule. We'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction, and this video overall is here to tell all of you what I think about the Owls in 2025. Sneeze again. Nope, we're good. Right down below me are returning production numbers. They're according to ESPN. They factor in portal additions up to a certain percentage. What's more is recruiting and transfer portal ranks for the class of 2025 are both according to 24/7 Sports. You will notice it says right up here in big, beautiful letters, that there is no offensive coordinator, no co-offensive coordinators. It is because that tells me, well, Zach Kitley is going to be taking over this offense. So what does that mean? Well, you look at what he ran at Texas Tech. You look at what he ran over at Western Kentucky. I think you're going to see a pretty high-flying passing attack, and it helps, too, when you transfer in a quarterback by the name of Caden Veltkamp. Caden Veltkamp is a guy that is a really, really good weapon. He is going to reunite with the former Western Kentucky offensive coordinator, Ed Kitley. Here is what Veltkamp did last season. 3,108 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions on 66.3% completion percentage with the Hilltoppers last year. So this is definitely a guy that is, while he didn't, I don't think, see time under Zach Kitley while Veltkamp was at Western Kentucky. I do think it's a guy that, knows the name, pretty familiar with the system, coming from the program in Western Kentucky that, again, of course, Kitley used to coach at and really got his big break from, right? This is a Caden Veltkamp guy that I think is very, very in line with what Kitley wants out of a quarterback. And I think he's going to fit in very well with, again, what I expect to be a high-flying passing attack. I know I repeated myself a lot there. We'll get away from that now. Let's go into your running back room. It is going to be revamped this season. Some of your leading rushers from last season are off and gone. Most notably, that's a guy by the name of C.J. Campbell, who is now with the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. 844 yards and 11 touchdowns last season, while Zuberi Mobley is gone and off to the Tulane Green Wave. So that's your top two leading rushers, and some more pieces do leave as well. But here is your revamped room. Really not that many big portal pieces, so here's what you got to work with. Jamari Sands, a redshirt sophomore. Xavier Terrell, a redshirt sophomore. And Caden Shields Dutton, who is a true sophomore, as well as a true freshman in Ethan Irvin that enters through that 99th overall rated recruiting class, but probably going to take a redshirt. It'll be the three guys that I mentioned beforehand that will probably be the lead role in this running back room. While some top wideouts do leave, you do get Jabari Smith coming back as a really big piece, and as a redshirt freshman last year, had 296 yards and 3 touchdowns, albeit only 17 catches. And again, you do lose some of your top wideouts from last season. Omari Hayes, guess what? Also off to the Tulane Green Wave. And then CJ Campbell was actually your second leading receiver last year with 40 catches out of the backfield. So your leading rusher was also your top receiving player last year. So what are some weapons that are going to be transferring in to this wide receiver room? Well, first of all, you're going to get some guys that I think have pretty high upside, such as Quincy Brown. He's a redshirt senior transferring over from Nicholls State, as well as TCU, where he formerly did play. You have J.R. Wilson coming over from Virginia. That's a nice power 4 piece with some good upside, some solid returners behind Jabari Smith. Okay, sorry, dropped something there. I have still not mentioned the big portal name that does come in, and that's a Western Kentucky transfer by the name of Easton Messer. And this kid is simply sensational. 793 yards, 4 touchdowns last year, and the year before that still also had 4 touchdowns with 484 yards. Last season was spectacular, and I think he's going to be an excellent weapon. That Veltkamp to Messer connection that we saw at Western Kentucky last year is just simply going to be switching programs and logos and jerseys. Veltkamp to Messer is probably going to be one of the best quarterback wide receiver pure connections that we are going to have in the American Conference this year. I truly do believe that. I think that connection is going to be outstanding, and it's going to lead to a lot of really good things for this program. And most importantly, some immediate success out of this offense. Tight end unit is also going to see an overhaul. However, unlike the running back room, that's going to have to work with what they got. The tight end room brings in pretty much all transfers. Martavius Collins, Reed McKeska, Michael Kirch, and some freshmen that do enter through that recruiting class. But again, the first 3 names, all portal pieces, going to be your top 3 tight end targets this year. The offensive line is going to have a good amount of turnover with some transfers coming in to help them. Do have some experienced players like Scarlett Jean and Alex Atkovaj that are both graduate students. Apologies for mispronunciations. I definitely butchered that second last name there. This is an FAU team, though. When you look at the offensive line last season, did allow 32 sacks. Hey, run game got 5 yards per carry. That's not too bad. In fact, Terrell, a guy that's coming back, averaged 18.6 yards per carry, and that includes ripping off a 93-yard run. So you got some good high upside pieces offensively. Again, I think that Veltkamp to Messer connection is going to work really, really well. And I understand me talking about the offense has been a little bit of a mess. I've had thoughts spewing from everywhere. So I'll sum it up just like this. Transfer quarterback in Veltkamp, I think, is going to pretty seamlessly get to know the Zach Kitley system. He's got a familiar wide receiver target as well as some really good pieces to surround Messer in not only the wide receiver and tight end room, while the running back room is going to be a little bit of a question and probably going to take a back seat to what Zach Kitley wants to do offensively. I think you still got some high upside pieces here. If Terrell, he's not going to continue 18.6 yards per carry, but if he can still play some solid positions, give you solid production, Jermari Sands comes in and gives you some solid production there as well. I think this is an offense that's going to work out pretty well. The offensive front has got to see their improvement, but I think this is the Zach Kitley system that's going to work pretty well here in Boca Raton. So if you learned nothing else, hopefully that summed it all up pretty well for you. Defensive coordinator is Brett DeWurst, and in revamping this defense, you're going to get some really notable transfers enter, but the main focus in developing this defense is going to be the pass rush. Obviously, a lot more than that needs improvement, work, so on and so forth. But the pass rush is the biggest thing you have got to work on. Nobody on this defense had more than 2.5 sacks last season. The guy that did so was Jacob Merrifield, and he's transferred over to USF. And you lose a ton of other pieces around this defense. You're going to lose leaders from pretty much every position grouping. I'll tell you, when there is going to be a notable returner. Other than that, go look up an FAU stat sheet. A lot of the main contributors are going to be off and gone. Your leading tackler from last year, CJ Hurd, is off to Vanderbilt. He's out of the safety room. Linebacker Jackson Ambush, yep, he's going to be on 74 tackles, 2 sacks last year. Interception leader Philip Dunham, he is over to Central Florida, UCF. Some other interception leaders, Kaiser Brown is going to try his luck in the NFL. Pass defended leader was Kaiser Brown as well. More sack producers, INT leaders, the list goes on and on and on with the talent you lose defensively. So I'm going to talk about what you have, talked a little bit about what you lost. Again, the focus is on what you have, and not much of the transfers are going to make up that 32% number right there now, will it? CJ Doggett, I think, is the focal point of this defensive line transfer portal class. He is coming over from Ohio, where he had 32 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks last year for the Bobcats, who were one of the better defenses in the MAC. So I think that is a massive transfer coming over to this program. And sure, you get some other solid pieces coming in through the portal. Eric Brantley is going to be a notable returning piece. He's a former Colorado transfer that returns from last year's unit to step into that starting defensive end role. Doggett, my apologies, is going to be on the interior as a defensive tackle. And again, some more transfers will come in as well. Sack production should see some good fortunes, as again, Doggett had some good sack production last year. You do get Naquan Barber from Coastal Carolina, who's a pretty high upside piece. Deshaun Baptiste, I think, has some pretty good upside as well. And even the guy that's going to play a depth role for you in Earl Miller from Bethune-Cookman, solid sack producer from the interior as well. Starting linebackers, mainly going to enter via the transfer portal. Again, you get Leon Hart in from the portal. He was at Marshall last year, just 13 tackles for the Thundering Herd. And then Tyler Stolsky is going to be coming over from Minnesota. He had 26 tackles in 2023. Not too many tackles for loss or sacks, 1.5 and 1 respectively. But those are some, again, good high upside pieces. Returners are going to slot into a depth role. You do have a lot of returners coming back to this linebacking unit. Zaire Horton, probably the most notable of them. Now, has only had 3 tackles over the past couple of seasons, and you have some freshmen that enter to be third strings. Fine. Linebacker room can be a bit of a question, but I think you do fairly decently with the transfers that you bring in. Secondary has some high-value portal pieces enter, such as guys like Derek Rogers, who's going to play corner. He's a Purdue transfer. You do get Dylan Williams over from UTEP, who had 34 tackles and an interception with the Miners last season. Demarius McGee is a really good piece coming in, and a rare returner in Wendell Filliard is going to be returning to this team. He was one of the top defensive back pieces. 4 passes defended, 40 tackles, was a top 10 tackler, forced a couple fumbles, and recovered one of them there as well. So secondary, I think probably maybe has the most upside out of any defensive position grouping that we've talked about here today. But again, all the defensive units that we've talked about today, from the D-line, linebackers to the defensive backfield, all see some high upside in their own ways, but it's going to take the coming together for an offensive-minded head coach to really start to build this defense. A Ray Guy watch list punter is on this team. I will give you his name in a second. A new kicker is going to be entering the fray from the portal. Garrison Smith is going to be coming over from Akron. It was also a former Ohio State transfer way back in the day. Andrew Nelms is a transfer that comes over from Georgia Tech. But your Ray Guy punter is Logan Lupo. Watch out for him. He's a really good piece, and that is your special teams report, because kickers are people too. So talked about the offense in length, so we'll now just focus on the defensive side. Again, Doggett, I think, is a really nice get out of in the defensive line room, but it really is going to be what does the scheme look like? How much do you grow from last season? And overall, can the depth of this defense stand up? I think there's a lot of questions to answer. Defensively, you lost a lot. Offensively, as long as the pieces fit into the system, I really don't have that many quarrels about what's going to go on offensively. I think you got the necessary pieces to be able to handle it, but the defense has got to step up and perform if FAU is to match that over on this 4.5 win total. These odds are current as of recording this video. They are brought to you by FanDuel. I say brought to you. I am not sponsored. More on them in a second. Let's take it over to the schedule. You take a look there. hey, the schedule can set up pretty nicely. But we'll dive on into it here in a minute. Back to these FanDuel odds. No, not me telling you to go place your money anywhere. I'm no one to give advice on gambling. It just is some good context. That's the word I'm looking for, to see how good FAU is going to be this year. Plus 5,500. That's pretty long odds to win Conference USA compared to some of the other teams we see here, like Tulane, Memphis, Navy, South Florida, that are all going to be pretty good this season. We know it's going to take a lot for them to get into the college football playoff, and kind of what I feel like is going to happen, FAU is going to need some time to adjust. Zach Kitley's going to need time to get into the head coaching style of things. 4.5, I think, is a fairly solid and fair number for that over-under win total. And so let's now get into the prediction side of things. You start out the season Saturday against Maryland. By the way, rarity for some of these group of 5 teams. You play all your games on a Saturday. No date or anything is wrong. I did check when I was switching cameras and graphics and things like that. This is a team that plays every single game on Saturday. Okay, figured I'd clear that up now. Maryland is going to be a loss, and look, I'm not too high on the Terps this year. I really just don't think they're going to be that impressive of a team out of the Big Ten ranks. However, I do think they got some solid pieces, and as FAU needs to adjust to their new system and a lot of the portal pieces getting mixed in, I think Maryland's got some really high upside offensive talent that's going to really put this building defense on its heels. Should be able to beat Florida A&M there in week 2. The Rattlers as an HBCU could provide some things to give FAU a headache, but I think the Owls top the Rattlers. This game against FIU, FIU, Florida Atlantic, Florida International, Owls versus Panthers. This is going to be a pretty interesting game here. Now, the way that I have my predictions working out, I do think FAU goes on the road and wins this one. And again, that's not an arbitrary, oh, I need a win here and I need a loss there. Bam, we're just going to choose this random game. I think there's a real shot that FAU gets FIU, and it's because of what this offense can possess, right? FIU, I think, has got a lot of defensive things to try to figure out. While there is some nice experience and pieces that return, I do think this can be more of an offensive shootout type game, because FIU has got a really dangerous quarterback of their own in K'Wan Jenkins, a guy that I've liked for quite some time now, and some other good offensive pieces. However, I think FAU has got the better offensive scheme, and I think that quarterback-wide receiver connection from Veltkamp to Messer is just going to be unparalleled compared to anything that FIU can have this season. Jenkins has seen weapons change around him all the time. And much is going to be the same here with this FIU team. I think this is a Florida International team that really does struggle in the Conference USA ranks this season. So FAU, look at that. You're above 500, off to a pretty good start here. Only one game left in non-con. That comes later in the schedule. You do get this game against Memphis that I think you drop. Memphis is replacing everybody. Longtime starter Seth Hennigan, gone. Some really good pieces on both sides of the ball will leave there as well. However, I think Ryan Silverfield has a very good foundation built with this program, and Memphis is a team that, while they do need to adjust and bring in some portal pieces, I think are still going to be one of the better sides in the American this year. Could they see some struggles after everything they lost? Yeah, it's definitely possible. I think a double-digit win season in the regular season is going to be a little hard for this team to do, but I do think Memphis is still one of the top contenders in the American Athletic, and that should be a loss or I should say that should be a win for Memphis. It means it's a loss for FAU. Again, as this Owls team just continues to adjust. You take a look at Rice and UAB, 2 very winnable games coming up here, but the biggest thing for me is, look, Rice and UAB are 2 teams that are still going to hang around, and they're still going to fight, still going to compete. The thing that I've been saying about Rice is, look, there's no more E.J. Warner. He's transferred off to Fresno State. There's no more Dean Connors. He's off to the Power 4 school in the city of Houston Houston, right, with the Big 12. But Rice has still got some solid offensive pieces that I think can give it to this FAU defense that I think overall is really going to have a lot of struggles this season. I do think Drew DeVilliers can be a solid quarterback. I honestly like a lot of their wide receiver pieces, especially the redshirt senior transfer in Aaron Turner, who comes over from Cincinnati, also formerly of UConn. Now, the running back situation might be a bit of a question, and Rice has still got some things to figure out defensively, although a lot of nice talent does come back. I think you're going to split these games either way, so I'll talk about UAB next. Trent Dilfer's just not a guy that I've believed in ever since he got the head coaching job. UAB loses some solid talent, and I don't think that's going to be too much of a great team this year either. So I think Rice UAB, while they're going to hang around, it really was very difficult to me to decide how I wanted to predict these games. So I did it like this. I just went ahead and said, look, I think FAU is going to lose this road game against Rice, and I think they win the home game against UAB. I think it's very possible that any three things can happen. I think they can split, whether that's the way I have it predicted or you can flip them. Because honestly, UAB might be the team better equipped to beat FAU than Rice. Again, this is just the way that I have my predictions working out. I think FAU can easily win both of them, and I also do think that FAU can lose both of them. It just depends on how far they've gotten, how much they're going to get adjusted, so on and so forth. I do like both of these teams as far as their matchup goes with FAU. I think it's favorable for the Owls, but I'll go with Al on Al crime for the loss. And FAU wins the home game against UAB. Now, you'll notice there too, this schedule is exceedingly backloaded. South Florida, Navy, Tulane, all favorites in Conference USA, all on the road. Jeez, man. Now, you do get UConn, East Carolina at home. UConn not an American team. They are an independent, but very noteworthy opponent because UConn's going to be good this year. I think East Carolina has the potential to be a sleeper in the American. Really, the only game you're looking at on the back half of the schedule where you might even be favored is this one right here against Tulsa. And I just don't think Tulsa's going to be that great. So let me run through and predict the back half of the schedule. I'm honestly going to run through it kind of quickly because I kind of just told you what I think about everything. But let's start out with these two road games. Even though you get a bye week in between the two, you're going to lose both of these on the road. We'll start with South Florida. Byron Brown is going to be one of the most explosive quarterbacks in the group of 5 ranks. I think if he can stay healthy, he's an exceptional weapon. And this is a team that, while they have a tough non-conference slate, is going to only grow. I think even though the record might not show it, they're going to be a better team than they were last year. This is the program that Alex Golish has trending in a phenomenal direction. Once that non-conference schedule, maybe you get one of the Power 4 teams off of there and throw in a really good matchup with a group of 5 schools, say like a James Madison or someone like that. South Florida, I think, is really going to start to grow. It's just hard to compete with a lot of those Power 4 teams right now. But if Byron Brown can stay healthy, they got the offensive pieces. I think the defense is going to be there to an extent as well. South Florida does beat their in-state counterparts. Navy, all I got to tell you about Navy is catch a midshipman game this year and watch the quarterback Blake Horvath. You'll be amazed. He is a really, really good player, a fantastic weapon. Navy returns a ton of their leading rushers from last season, and although it's a defense that's maybe not as impressive as what Air Force or Army is going to field, it's still going to hit you hard, and I think it's going to be a lot better than it was last season. Now, again, I already told you this game right here against Tulsa, you're probably looking and saying, yeah, this is a pretty winnable one, and I would agree. Tulsa's just not a team I got a lot of faith in this year. I don't think this is a team that is going to do much of anything, and I think FAU, with just all the talent they have, it's going to come together and click at some point, so that is a win for the Owls. But from this point forward, I don't think they win a game. On the road against Tulane, even though you're going to be replacing Darian Mensah at the quarterback position, Mekhi Hughes at the running back position, and a lot of leading defensive pieces are gone, well, there are a lot of really good transfers that come into that program. They're still very well coached, even though it is not the likes of Willie Fritz. It is John Summerall. I still think he's one of the best coaches in the G5 ranks. Tulane is still going to be one of the best teams in the G5 ranks. And the Mean Green will, or not the Mean Green, that's North Texas, the Green Wave, there you go. They'll be able to down FAU. UConn, sneaky team that added some good pieces through the transfer portal. UConn has got a lot of very nice returning talent. And I mean, what a story Jim Mora has built this program into. Joe Fagnano, look, if he can stay healthy, he's going to be an exceptional quarterback. Cam Edwards returns to play running back to pair with Skylar Bell and some good returning wide receiver pieces. You got some good transfers, and you're revamping this defense with, I think, some really high-value portal pieces. The ceiling for UConn, I think, is higher than it's been in quite some time with this program. And watch out for the Huskies, man. They're going to compete in pretty much every game that they got on that schedule. I think UConn's going to be a force this year and just continue to show really good things in the Jim Mora era. That's a loss for FAU. And East Carolina's got some good pieces coming into the program as well. List off a couple of them here. I mean, again, just blanket statement. This is an East Carolina team. They put everything together. They can be a sleeper in this conference. Caden Hauser is back. Some really good returning wide receiver pieces return. You do get some really good transfers, such as Tegan Wilk in the defensive backfield out of the portal. I do like this East Carolina team a lot, and I think they take a jump up from where they were last season. So 4-8 again might feel like, oh, here we go, more of the same again. It's exactly how the Tom Herman era started out, so on and so forth. Give Zach Kitley some time, guys. I think he's a very bright young mind. This is the program that needs a lot of building, especially defensively, and I do like the offensive system. Look, 4-8 is not nothing. 4-8 is definitely something to build on. And again, like I said, I think there are some games here that I'm predicting a loss where you could win. You can win on the road at Rice and beat UConn, and I think that's how you get to a bowl game this season. I think it's a little difficult to see them winning any other game, but if things click right away for this FAU team, and they need to defensively, which I just have a hard time seeing right out of the gate, FAU can be a dangerous team and surprise some people, but I see this as a building year. Get their feet wet before they can really dive into the Zach Kitley era next season. Let me know what you guys think about the Owls in the comment section below. Hey, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See you all in the next video. Goodbye.